to the entertainment Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the cuts that the New York Giants just made. And it really should not be news to any of us. There were 4 guaranteed cuts, in my opinion. And today, 2 of them went down. The New York Giants cut 2 linebackers, Kareem Martin and Alec Ogletree. I still expect both Rhett Ellison and Antoine Bethea to be cut, along with, some potential other small cuts that may equate to a combined $22 to $25 million. This will equal approximately $13 million. Kareem Martin, let's face it, was a complete bust. He was brought here, I think, to fit the James Bettcher defense. Never really played. He was often injured and just was not a good player for the New York Giants. Was not worth the money. And the Giants will move on, and they'll save about $5 million from him and about another $8 from Alec Ogletree. Alec Ogletree was a player that we acquired from the Rams that a lot of us were really excited about when the Giants brought him in. After all, the New York Giants have not had any real good linebackers here. We say it all the time since Antonio Pierce. Ogletree was consistently up there in terms of tackles, was regarded as, one of the better linebackers in the league before he got here, even though with the Rams the last couple of years he started to fall off a little bit. The Giants brought him in. He had a couple of good games. The 49er game comes to mind where he had some, the Bears game, he had a couple of acrobatic interceptions. But overall, he was a liability in pass coverage. He was not a very good linebacker. He was an average linebacker, and that's putting it nicely. An average starting middle linebacker, and I don't even think he's that you were paying near the top of the league. He just wasn't worth the money that he was getting paid. And by saving this $13 million, that basically pays for the Giants' entire draft. I read an article recently that said that the New York Giants draft expenses this year are going to equate to be right around $13 million. Well, these 2 players being cut from the team pretty much pays for it. So I think it was a no-brainer. I think we all knew this was going to happen. This really shouldn't be breaking news to anyone. It's kind of just a relief that Dave Gettleman did the obvious. These 2 players had to be cut, and it's a good job. Dave Gettleman made a bad trade there, giving up a 5th-round pick for this guy. Not so much because of the price tag, but more so because Ogletree just wasn't worth the contract that he was being paid, but we were desperate for a linebacker, so I understood why he made the trade that he did. But we'll have to wait and see what this means in terms of the draft and free agency. Does this mean that Isaiah Simmons is more likely? Not in my opinion, because in my opinion, I think that this was a given. We knew this was going to happen before the offseason started. We knew that both these players were on the chopping block, and now I think Ellison and Bethea should be next to go. I think it's too much money those players are getting paid, and that money could be better spent elsewhere. This is a good move by the New York Giants, but let's pull up the official tweet just so I can show you off of Giants Twitter. Now, it doesn't tell you the cap savings here, but it's going to be $13 million or thereabouts between these 2 players. Roster moves. Giants release Alec Ogletree and Kareem Martin, and that's off the Giants Twitter right there. As this is breaking news that came out about 15 minutes ago. Got it up as fast as I could. Of course, I uploaded another video right before it about Mekhi Becton. But, yeah, man, I think this was a no-brainer. I think it's been a no-brainer for a few years now. And we'll see how the New York Giants spend the cap space. They're now going to have, if they make the other 2 cuts and maybe a couple other small cuts, they'll have about $85 million to spend, between 80 and 85. You have to keep in mind, of course, Gettleman said he wants to save $20 million. Now, I don't know if that incorporated draft expenses along with in-season moves or he was talking specifically about in-season moves, but we'll say that he's going to leave $20 million aside, which will give the Giants about $60 to $65 million to spend in free agency this offseason. Of course, some of that very well could be allocated to Leonard Williams and potentially Marcus Golden, and retaining some other small players on their roster like Cody Core, David Mayo, guys like that. We'll have to wait and see what they do in free agency, but this was some much-needed cap space that the New York Giants could use, whether it's draft expenses or filling in for Alec Ogletree's replacement. They could elect to do that via free agency or the draft. Of course, Isaiah Simmons is on a lot of Giants fans' radars. The other thing they could elect to do is sign a guy like Corey Littleton. Corey Littleton, I think, is a really good player that you could probably get for the combined cost of these 2 players, maybe a little bit more, probably around $13 or $14 million a year. So I think this was a great move. I think it was a needed move. I think it was obvious, and I think we all knew it was coming. Best of luck to Alec Ogletree if he signs on somewhere else. The same could be for Kareem Martin, but they weren't in the New York Giants' best interest, not this year and not going forward. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.